Hello and welcome to another episode of Scott Reads Comics. Today I'll be covering Elementals #1 from Comico Comics, published in 1984. I've had this issue for a while, picked it up in some dollar bins, along with this gem several months ago, which concludes the first appearance ever of the Elementals by Bill Willingham. And I've kind of been, waiting for the right time to cover this, which for me, this was my foray into indie comics as a teenager. I wasn't reading Reed Fleming, World's Toughest Milkman, or Hate, or anything else, anything of that ilk. I stuck pretty closely to adventure comics and superheroes and things like that. But comics like The Elementals, like Southern Knights, like The Realm from Arrow Comics, those were the sort of indie comics I read. And Elementals was really, if you think about it, one of the closest entries for a true superhero comics fan into indie comics. Because it pretty much was like a Marvel or DC comic, but a little more expensive and obviously without the burden of the Comics Code Authority as well, a little more adult-oriented in theme and in presentation. And this is a Bill Willingham production. And it's important, I think, that I'm covering this now because fellow YouTuber Michael Troy is doing a Kickstarter that has about 2 weeks left. He did not ask me to do this video. He did not ask me to mention his Kickstarter. I am volunteering to do it because I really like Michael Troy's channel. You should check it out. He's got a ton of energy. He and I come from the same place when it comes to our comic fandom. He, though, is a professional. He is a professional artist, and there are certain things that he brings to the table when he talks about comics that are very much like cartoonist kayfabe, in the sense that he can speak from a place as a creator. I'm a writer. I write tabletop games and do a little bit of short fiction on the side, but Michael Troy was a comics creator and in many ways still is. And his Kickstarter for the Elementals is called Elementals Public Dominion, because the Elementals as characters have fallen into the public domain. And so he's doing just a one-shot, 40-page tribute to Bill Willingham's Elementals. And I think it's really great. It comes from a place of true fandom. He's not asking for a ton of money. He's already 85% funded. So I really think with 14 days left, this thing is going to fund. But I really think if you're a fan of old 1980s comics like I am, like a lot of my viewers I think are, I think you owe it to yourself to go check out his Kickstarter. He's not asking, again, for a ton of money. And it's going to deliver sometime middle of next year. I mean, Michael's a one-man show, but he's getting contributions from current and past pros like Michel Fife, who does Cobra, which I've covered on this show. He is getting original artwork from Mike Gustovich, who was responsible for the Justice Machine in the first appearance of the Elementals. Was in a Gustovich book. I mean, this is a Mike Gustovich inked and plotted book, I think. But Justice Machine, anyway, they're owned by Mike Gustovich. And so he's had a long history with the Elementals. And so Michael Fitzgerald, Troy, he's getting stuff from these creators that's going to be in the book, which is really cool. He's coloring some of the original black and white artwork. So it's a fun, neat campaign. I'm going to put a link in my description and comments so you can check it out very easily just by clicking that link. And, give it a look. And if it's something you're interested in, go ahead and support it. So Elementals #1, The Natural Order. Chapter 1, The Spontaneous Generation by Bill Willingham, pencils and plot. Michael Wolff, script and plot. Keith Wilson, letters. Eric Merrill, colors. But who inks it? Well, let's look. Welcome to the first issue of the Elementals. This is not, however, their first appearance. The Justice Machine Annual #1, published by Texas Comics. saw them first in a 20-page backup. There were 5 different inkers who worked on this issue, which is why they are not listed rather than here rather than in the credits above. Bill Anderson, Jeff D., Sam De La Rosa, Keith Wilson, and Rich Rankin. So at the very least, Jeff D. was with Bill Willingham. They did a lot of art for RPGs, for role-play games. If you remember the classic D&D ads in the 80s comics, mostly DC comics, Bill Willingham drew those D&D ads, and boy, would I love a collection of those, because they themselves tell a little story, which is pretty cool. So Bill Willingham and Jeff D. were coming from RPGs. They were working for TSR, they were working for Palladium, and they were working for other companies. And in fact, some of the characters who show up in here, the villains, are actual characters from the Villains and Vigilantes roleplay game, I believe, the Destroyers. These characters who are featured here, and I love these characters as a kid. This is just a classic, so classic 4-color superhero action here with your heroes against this group of baddies who just, them just looking at them, their design just tells a story. It's really cool. So the elementals, air, earth, fire, water, we have, this is set in, another thing that was cool about this, it's not set in New York City or Gotham City or anywhere like that. It's set in the Pacific Northwest, in Seattle and in Puget Sound. And this is before the 90s sensation of the Seattle sound and the grunge movement, which was kind of neat. Bill Willingham was, as always, ahead of his time. Miss Rebecca, it's morning. There's still some breakfast, Miss Rebecca, but your father wants to speak to you and your friends together in the library. Go away, Lawrence. So we have one of our principal characters, Fathom. She doesn't want to get up, but eventually she does. And here we have a great establishing panel here. And the colors in this are really, really nice. Eric Merrill's colors. Again, this is a Baxter-like paper, which is really cool. Which, I mean, you were paying $1.95 or $1.50 for this. Versus comics at the time, I think, were either 65 or 75 cents. And here we have Vortex thinking, weird, yesterday this outfit was ripped 8 ways from Sunday, now it's whole. So we're going to learn through, not that much in this issue, but through subsequent issues, just the true nature of these 4 characters, because they all share one thing in common. They all died and came back. So you're saying that Rebecca never really drowned? I'm saying that she did, Mr. Golden. Unfortunately, your daughter was dead for a time. You say unfortunately. That's because death isn't a pleasant thing. You see, they didn't find our bodies either. So, Bobby was buried alive, or apparently buried dead. And the fire character, she was burned, and he died in a severe, he was a Coast Guard helicopter pilot who died in a severe storm. So this agent from the FBI has come to check on the elementals because they are of interest to the government, what they can do. Porter Scott, Seattle FBI office. The name means bearer of shadows. It's so great that the kid, he's like a super intellectual. I've never made a study of names, Mr. Shishura, but I'll take your word for it. I've been ordered to act as a government liaison in contact concerning Miss Rebecca Golden, Miss Jeanette Crane, Mr. Thomas Shishura, and Mr. Jeff Murphy. Oh, I call Thomas Shishura Bobby Shishura. His name is Thomas. I spoke with General Richter this morning. I'm the result of that conversation. Several government agencies, from the Department of Defense to the Treasury, have now expressed interest in your daughter and her associates. Why? Is it against the law to come back from the dead? Not yet, Lieutenant, but the last time someone rose from the dead was 2,000 years ago. That's a great line. The government feels it's like to be prepared this time. Besides, there's the matter of a certain peculiar features and incidents surrounding this alleged reincarnation. And here we have our first appearance of Fathom, and we can see that she is not a normal woman anymore, as she is transformed into this, her skin is this green hue along with her hair. And I'm saying that the authorities want more information. There's been some unusual goings on the past weeks. A fireball on Mount Rainier, a small tidal wave on the Oregon shore, a tornado near the Augusta mine of all places. Not to mention the landslide in the Arizona meteor crater. What? Nothing, Mr. Scott. So, Ferguson isn't having any of it. She's the most aggressive of the elementals and really ends up becoming their leader, which is great. She's an ex-police officer. Great use of the open panel here by Willingham. Really nice. The costume design on the characters will change over time. This one's a very much a kind of almost like a Legion of Superheroes, almost like a 60s design. But things will change on them. They've already, I think, changed a little bit from when they first appeared. We really only get to see Fathom's costume, and I don't think we get to see the other costumes in action in this issue. That will be for issue 2. And here we get our first meeting with the Destroyers. Interlude. And I love this long establishing panel here with their ship. Their ship's really great. It's a nice take on the Avengers Quinjet. New target coordinates read as 47 degrees, 36 minutes, 32 seconds north, 122 degrees, 20 minutes, 12 seconds west. Definitely Seattle. So they've elected to remain put for the moment. So much the better. Rebecca Golden's father is a very influential lawyer. His estate on Mercer Island is fashionably isolated and suitable for what we have in mind. Except, my dear Sandra, for the fact that by now the estate is probably surrounded by feds. So, feds are nothing but cops with college degrees. We can take them. Our contract specifically stated that our priority goal is the elementals alive. Nothing was said about mixing it up with the authorities. A confrontation might be avoidable. So this woman, shapeshifter, and great credit to Bill Willingham for his character design, because each one of these characters is really cool looking, and he fleshes them out very well as the issues go on. But she's a very distinctive villain. Seattle, Washington, home of the Seahawks, J.P. Patches, and the world-famous Space Needle. Great use of an actual, I think, picture here to save a bit of time. Nicely welded into the comic. Here we go. They're sitting down to a nice meal to discuss the situation with Agent Scott. But you've left one important connection, Agent Scott. We've all been resurrected from the dead. Speculation, Mr. Shizura. Being buried in a deep cave-in is hardly speculation. It's more like several tons of earth and rock crushing you even before you have a chance to suffocate. Yes, you were last seen entering Mesa Verde National Park shortly before an unprecedented rock slide took place. Now you were never heard from again, and it was believed you were in a small cave and caught by the slide. Miss Golden, you were boating with friends on Puget Sound when the boat capsized. So that's her drowning, his death by earth, and then let's get to Vortex. Mr. Murphy, you were flying a Coast Guard patrol mission out of Galveston when your helicopter lost fuel pressure and went down in the Gulf of Mexico. And finally, Miss, or should I say Lieutenant Crane, you went into a tenement building after a suspect. The building caught on fire, cause unknown. You were the only one who didn't get out. Rodrigo set the fire to cover his tracks. He had it all set up. Make your point, Agent Scott. The point is that as final as these accidents seem, it's still possible, albeit remotely, that your daughter and her new friend survived. No bodies were found. It's true that surviving these incidents would have been difficult. But where's the proof they died? They're sitting here right now. Have you ever tried climbing out of a Sikorsky H3F that crashed from an altitude of 9,500 feet? Not really. You're welcome to try it then. Good luck. All right, wait a moment. Let's assume that all of you did die. In Becky's case, it's certainly acceptable, and it's certainly evident that she's been physically changed. But if you did die, then how come we came back? Exactly. There are times when I wonder about that myself. And we can look here in the background, excellent bit of storytelling here, as we can see the Annihilator's ship approaching, excuse me, hearkened by the arrival of, or the destroyers, hearkened by the arrival of Annihilator. I love this costume design. It so reminds me of Guardian. Like as a kid, this was peak Alpha Flight time, 1983, 1984. I think it's one of the things that attracted me to this book were the colors of the characters, and the character designs themselves are so cool. And unlike anything I had seen at Marvel, with the exception of Annihilator, who I thought was really reminiscent of Guardian, and I just liked it a lot. Chrysalis, another great villainess here. So we're going to get our good old-fashioned superhero fight here for the next few pages, which is pretty awesome. Electrocutioner, get in here and help keep everyone away. Chrysalis, you and Ratman go after the targets. We see them, Annihilator. You think he means us? Fair guess. Mr. Golden, you and the others get back. Chrysalis? Good God, what is this? So she envelops him in her hideous goo that she shoots. I'm afraid it's trouble, Mr. Golden. You'd better pull Agent Scott out of harm's way. But what about you? We can handle ourselves, Daddy. Go pay the bill, then run like hell. So really great storytelling here from Bill Willingham. He's got a very cool cartoonist style when it comes to his pencils. Later in the 80s, he would do some great work for DC. Just spot work on Justice League International. He did a couple of annuals for them. He did a story I covered on the show where Barda's Mega Rod gets stolen. And that's a great one. And it was actually a pretty heavily watched video, so check that one out. It was, I think, a Justice League 28 maybe. I'll have to double check that and maybe put it in the comments. But an excellent artist, super accomplished. He would later go on in the late 90s to do Shadow Pact for DC, a very successful second-tier super team comic with all the DC Supernatural characters as the main protagonists. And again, really good job with that, too. All right, so get up off the floor, Vortex. We have work to do here. I love her blocking Chrysalis's power with her fire blast. Excuse me a second. Getting over a little cold here, folks. Ratman. So he's about to hammer Vortex or rake him with his claws. And Vortex recovers himself and literally blows him away. We can hold out. The people are going to get hurt up here. It's us they're after. Then let's make it a little bit hard for them. I've got an idea. Fathom, I need a diversion. What are you going to do? Just do it, okay? So another great, this was kind of a straight on shot of power versus power, but I love the storytelling here of this aerial view, again, of power versus power, Fathom against Annihilator. And Bobby exits the Space Needle, seemingly the hard way, and in this great panel, we see him transform for the first time this issue. God, I hope this doesn't hurt. And another fantastic long panel. Paul Smith would be proud. And we get an incredible boom here at the bottom as he lands with the force of a missile. Ouch. Uh-oh. Going somewhere? So here we have our first Monolith Behemoth clash. And this incredible page, wow. Just amazing for our double page spread. Very well timed. Again, this is crafted. This is not just like second tier indie production value here. Bill Willingham and crew knew what they were doing when they were putting this issue together. And I think that's why, as a kid, and maybe many other kids, it attracted us, because this looked like the comics we were reading in Marvel and DC in terms of quality. And then you had the better paper and the vivid color, and man, it was just a real attention grabber. We're outclassed here, so it's great that Electrocutioner is kind of a coward. Nonsense. All it takes is a measured application of one's abilities. Concentrate on Fathom for the time being. Chrysalis and I shall handle the others. So here we have Ratman grabbing a fire extinguisher. We know who he's going to use that on. Chrysalis, a well-placed blast of her armor's goo weapon here. I can almost feel the panic as Vortex gets it all over his face. It seemingly is suffocating. Oh crap, cover me, Becky. Already taken care of. So she's literally washing these guys away, and our fire character is dealing with Chrysalis. Jeff, get this off me, he's basically saying. And meanwhile, outside we have our big guy battle, which is classic superhero comics 101. Shakaw! So Behemoth knocks Monolith back. That hurt, and this bruiser has more where that came from. I'm gonna knock you into the center of the earth. My car! So Monolith hurls this car, and Behemoth is proof against it, but we can see he has other powers. And what a great open panel incorporating the sound effect here. Yarg! Now why didn't I think of that? Thoom! Really cool. Got to get this off before he chokes. And here she's aware of Crystal sneaking up on her. And she hits her with some super intense flame. And Ratman is trying to extinguish her. And this is an incredible full-page panel here. The name, dear heart, is Fathom. Really cool. She literally blows these two, or washes these two out of the Space Needle. I don't know how much more of this I can take than remain out here. I have a more realistic assessment of my limits. Now what? These jokers are playing for keeps. We've got to move out and gain some fighting room. We're not doing all that badly. Grow up for a moment. Not this time. So she really burns Ratman pretty good here. But Fathom gets clocked by Chrysalis. Ow. I'll take care of the insect lady. You're fireproof. Let's see if you're rust-proof. That's 2 down. And I've almost got this thing, Jeff. And here, Mr. Golden, Fathom's father, has freed, mostly freed our FBI agent Scott from the entrapment that he was suffering from, when suddenly he is set upon by a being we will see is Shapeshifter. And we get a great shape-shifting sequence here. And this does remind me of a D&D ad Bill Willingham did, where they were facing off against some lycanthropes who were initially in human form, and there's a panel in this one-page ad where they transform into their werewolf forms, and this is shades of that. So, of course, between that time, the early 80s, and this time, closer to the mid-80s, Bill Willingham has progressed as an artist, so this is obviously a lot tighter, but you can see some of the same answers to the questions that Bill Willingham is providing here in this sequence. Really nice. I advise you two to surrender. Daddy? The 3 of you are going to remain very still. Then, when my partners return and recover, we'll discuss a little journey. What do we do? Do what my associate suggests. Remain calm, and I can assure you and your friends an extremely interesting experience. Next issue, Angel of Light. So it's the next issue, and we get a great full-page pinup of the Destroyers here. The next issue is where we're going to meet the benefactor of the Destroyers, Saker, who is an incredibly interesting villain and character in himself. So really cool. This is a photostat of the cover of issue 2. I remember it very well. It's very brown because it has Monolith on the cover. Just super cool, really great 80s comics at their best. And I really think that the Elementals Public Dominion is a great campaign, a kind of almost a grassroots Kickstarter campaign from a true fan like Michael Fitzgerald Troy. Again, I'll put that link in the description in the comments so you can check it out yourselves. But yeah, that was Elementals #1. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please like and subscribe. Tell your friends, and I'll bring you more soon on Scott Reads Comics. Thanks for watching.